The American news media is calling out the Trump administration for telling lies, saying, damn it, that's our job. The feud began when the news media savaged the White House for saying the media lied when it was lying, and the White House responded by lying about the lies the media was lying about while the administration lied. The media then lied by saying that the administration was lying when it said the media was lying, and the administration struck back by lying about the media, which was lying. Anger erupted within hours of the new president taking office when a reporter for Time magazine lied that the Trump administration had removed a bust of Martin Luther King Jr. from the Oval Office. The reporter later apologized, saying the bust was still in the Oval Office, but he hadn't seen it there because he wanted black people to get angry and hate the new president, an innocent mistake. Presidential spokesman Sean Spicer responded by lambasting the press, saying President Trump would never remove the MLK bust from the Oval Office, that Trump had the utmost respect for the bust and had even marched with the bust in Selma in 1965 when they were set upon by dogs and other Democrats. Kellyanne Conway later went on Sean Hannity's show to clarify that while Trump had not actually marched with Martin Luther King Jr., he was himself a black man who had worked his way up from slavery to become a white billionaire, though he tried to retain a connection to his original race, which accounts for his orange color. There was further acrimony between the media and the administration when several news outlets disagreed with Trump about how many people had attended his inaugural address. The White House says that more than 1.5 million people crowded into the National Mall to hear the speech. The media says there were only 15 people, and 7 of them were Secret Service agents, while the rest were homeless people who just happened to wander by. The media confirmed its accounts by releasing photographs of homeless people, while the administration struck back by releasing photographs of Wolf Blitzer in his underwear, photoshopped next to a hooker with a rubber ducky and a whip. Blitzer then retaliated, saying that from now on, CNN would drop any pretense of objectivity and dedicate every minute of its airtime to attacking the new administration and making up stories about how awful it is. Blitzer later conceded that this was already CNN's policy. The war of lie versus lie promises to continue throughout the week, with the news media threatening a barrage of false stories to the effect that men can become women, that unborn babies aren't people, and man-made global warming is threatening to destroy the world. The Trump administration threatened to retaliate by announcing they are the most beloved administration since records of belovedment began being kept in the early hours of last night. Both sides retracted their threats, admitting they were all a bunch of lies. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shaped, tipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
Hooray, hurrah. Here we are broadcasting from Phoenix, Arizona. And tomorrow is the mailbag day. I will be back in California tomorrow. So send in, if you are a subscriber and you pay your lousy $8 a month to the Daily Wire, you can send in your questions and I will answer them tomorrow in the mailbag segment. Answers are guaranteed 98.7% correct, and even a higher percentage of that they will change your life, possibly for the better. Okay, so I'm here in Phoenix to talk to a group of Jewish Christians, Jews who have become Christians. They're going to interview me about my book, The Great Good Thing, which is about my own conversion to Christianity, a memoir about my own conversion to Christianity. And I walk into this lovely hotel in Phoenix, and there seems to be a convention of Hasidic rabbis here. So I walked in, and the entire lobby was just covered with devout Jews. So I texted my wife and asked her if she thought I should break the good news to them, but she told me not to and just go to my room. But anyway, there is lots of news going on in the world. Yesterday we were talking about the Trump administration. I felt they kind of got off. They had a little bit of a rocky start. I think they were a little bit thrown by suddenly finding themselves the most powerful people in the country. And Kellyanne Conway made that slip about, whatever it was, alternative facts and all this stuff. But now things are really changing. We were talking about the kind of difference between the flesh of what the Trump administration does, what it actually does in policy, and the spirit of what they do. If they tell lies, if Trump goes off on any of his rants and all that stuff, and how much we have to support one to be in favor of the other. Because Trump had a good day as far as I was concerned. He's instituted a federal hiring freeze, which that's great. I mean, if they would just add to the federal hiring freeze a federal firing spree, I would think that would be perfect. But it's really good, except for the military. They're not going to hire more federal people with some limitations. The Mexico City policy that bans NGOs, non-government organizations that are kind of charity organizations that the government supports. They have this Mexico City policy that prevents them from getting federal funds if they promote abortion. That sounds good, and it is good, but it's something that goes with every administration. The Democrats put it back in place. The Democrats take it off. The Republicans put it back in place whenever they come in. It's kind of a ping pong ball. And my favorite thing, which didn't have directly to do with Trump, was that the Centers for Disease Control is scrapping their annual climate change conference because they were concerned that the Trump administration would squash the conference anyway. That one, I don't know, is it wrong to have feelings of sexual pleasure at that news? I'm not sure. I was personally really thrilled about it. And then there is the Pacific Trade Partnership. Trump squashed that, and that's causing the folks at the Wall Street Journal, all the business folks, to go crazy, because now you have this crazy spectacle of the president of Communist China, Xi Jinping, making speeches in support of free trade, and the president of the United States killing what is supposed to be this big free trade agreement with all these Asian partners. But that is actually not fair to Trump. Trump is saying something. He is saying that we're not being treated fairly, that we let goods in for free, but China has all these restrictions on foreign imports and things like that. So we're not getting a fair deal with them. And he wants to negotiate those deals country by country, and these kind of deals that deal with all these countries at once. He feels that we get screwed. So we'll see. We'll see if he has something better in mind. A lot of people have raised a lot of objections to this trade deal because of it carves out all these special things for special countries. And he just feels we're not getting, he had this meeting. Trump had this really interesting meeting with business leaders where he sat down. You could sort of see that these were his homies. He's talking to all these guys who run businesses and he was telling him that things are going to get better, that if you want to start a business in America, it is going to be easier to do because he's going to dial back the regulations in a big way. So that was the carrot, and then we'll talk about the stick. Let's first hear what Trump said.
And you have to go through the process, but it's going to be expedited, and we're going to take care of the environment, we're going to take care of safety, and all of the other things we have to take care of. But you're going to get such great service. There will be no country that's going to be faster, better, more fair, and at the same time protecting the people of the country, whether it's safety or so many other reasons where regulations are good. We think we can cut regulations by 75%, maybe more, but by 75%. Have, in a certain way, better protections. But when you want to expand your plant, or when Mark wants to come in and build a big, massive plant, or when Dell wants to come in and do something monstrous and special, you're going to have your approvals really fast.
I love the way he's talking to them. He knows who these guys are. This is, now he followed this up with the stick, saying if you leave the country and go to another place and manufacture there, we're going to tax your goods coming in to the country. And that's the stick, and that is something that a lot of people are against. I've always noticed that protectionism doesn't work. But if what he's talking about is equaling the protection on one side as it is on the other, then I don't know. That's a little bit of a different story, and we'll see how it works. As I say, he's a practical guy. I'm not really that worried about policies that if they don't work, he will change them. He's not like Obama. So that is the flesh, as we say, of what he's doing. The spirit was on the other side was Sean Spicer. Sean Spicer got off to a rocky start when he went in and yelled at the press about the number of people at the inaugural. It was difficult to see whether he was telling the truth, but he gave the press this excuse to say, "Oh, you were wrong and we were right," which is so rare with the press that there was absolutely no reason for it. So now he takes the stage for his first real press conference, and they were the media themselves were pretty impressed because he stayed there and answered their questions. They were upset at first because he didn't go with protocol, because he asked questions of conservative outlets first, the New York Post, and I think the Christian Broadcasting Network, I think was the other one. Usually you start with the Associated Press. As far as I'm concerned, he can do that all day long. That is just great. He should do much more of that. But then there was this exchange with Jonathan Karl from ABC, who challenged Spicer this way.
The nature of your job.
Yeah.
Is it your intention to always tell the truth from that podium And will you pledge never to knowingly say something that is not factual?
It is. It's an honor to do this, and yes, I believe that we have to be honest with the American people. I think sometimes we can disagree with the facts. There are certain things that we may not fully understand when we come out, but our intention is never to lie to you, Jonathan. Our job is to make sure that sometimes, and you're in the same boat. I mean, there are times when you guys tweet something out or write a story and you publish a correction. That doesn't mean that you were intentionally trying to deceive readers and the American people, does it? And I think we should be afforded the same opportunity. There are times when we believe something to be true, or we get something from an agency, or we act in haste because the information available wasn't complete, but our desire to communicate with the American people and make sure the most complete story at the time. And so we do it.
So this is kind of nonsense. Carl asks him, will you pledge never to lie? You know, when Jimmy Carter took office, he said, I will never lie to you. And I believe he was speaking to the press or the people, and the press just went to town on him. They beat the crap out of him because, of course, presidents lied. Everybody, everybody in politics has to lie at times, and Sean Spicer is going to tell lies. So that was kind of a bogus question. They were just trying to get him on this, bring him down to their level. But Spicer then delivered when they started in, because this whole thing, they're arguing about this meaningless thing about how many people were at Trump's inaugural as opposed to Obama's inaugural, which is doubly meaningless because, first of all, Obama's a popular guy, but second of all, Washington is a blue city. Washington is filled with Obama supporters. It was an historic moment and all this stuff. But Spicer now gets to the point. The media is trying to keep control of the narrative. Their basic proposal, as I said in my opening, is it's their job to lie, and the president is not allowed to lie back. And Spicer really delivers. He really gives them a speech that should have been made a long time ago by another Republican president. Let's hear that speech.
There is this constant theme to undercut the enormous support that he has. And I think it's just unbelievably frustrating when you're continually told it's not big enough, it's not good enough, you can't win. And hold on, let me just, because I think it's important. He's gone out there and defied the odds over and over and over again. And he keeps getting told what he can't do by this narrative that's out there, and he exceeds it every single time. And I think there's an overall frustration when you turn on the television over and over again and get told that there's this narrative that you didn't win, you weren't going to run, you can't pick up this state, that's not, that's a fool's errand to go to Pennsylvania. Why is he in Michigan? How silly. They'll never vote for him. A Republican hasn't won that state since '88. And then he goes and he does it, and then what's the next narrative? Well, it must have been because of this. He didn't win that. And then, people aren't attending your thing. Or John Lewis is the first person to skip his inauguration. Not true. And over again, the MLK bust. I think over and over again there's this constant attempt to undermine his credibility and the movement that he represents. And it's frustrating for not just him, but I think so many of us that are trying to work to get this message out. And so I mentioned this to Jonathan, but part of this is a two-way street. Like, we want to have a healthy dialogue, not just with you, but with the American people. Because he's fighting for jobs, he's fighting to make this country safer. But when you're constantly getting told that can't be true, we doubt that you can do this won't happen, and that's the narrative when you turn on television every single day, it's a little frustrating.
That is great. I've been waiting for a Republican to say that to the press forever. They kind of say it in this whiny little way. They go on TV and say it. But if this administration holds the press to account, they're going to change things. Because look what's happening on the other side. All right, we're talking about the narrative, and I know I hammer this home, but it's so important. The narrative creates this tide, this current that sweeps people's thoughts away. This is, as I've said before, this is why George Washington it took him a long time to understand the true evil of slavery. As much as he was in favor of liberty, the intellectual current of his time swept him away, even as great a man as Washington. The same thing with abortion. People today, there was an article in The Atlantic saying how evil ultrasound was because women didn't want to have an abortion after they saw their baby, because they don't want, the left does not want reality to the place of the narrative, or for there to be a narrative involving reality. So let's go back to see what's happening on the other side and why it's such a crisis. Because this women's march that the press is saying was such a wonderful thing, and the press is calling it the beginning of a movement, and it's the end. It is the end. That was one of the great PR disasters for the left of all time, because it showed you that their narrative is gone. We're going to get to that in a minute. I got to say goodbye to the folks on Facebook and YouTube. But come on over to thedailywire.com and subscribe. It's a lousy $8 a month. Subscribe, and you can be on the mailbag.